All right, well, thank you for joining us today for this webinar. My name is Brian Walker. I'll be walking you through our topic today. We are Statwax, a little more about us to come in a moment once we get started. But if you all don't mind, I'll go ahead and share our presentation deck and start walking you through it. We do have several capabilities to chime in here. If you want to raise a hand or ask a question during the presentation, feel free to do so. I'll leave time for questions at the end of this session so that we can address anything that might come up while we walk through all of this. But we have a lot of detailed information to get into today, so I won't waste any more of your time. Go ahead and get sharing here. Bring this full screen. All right, so if you are here today, then you are interested in learning about closed loop analytics. And what we're going to walk through today is how to create that closed loop analytics system for your own business. Now, before we get into that, a little bit about what we're going to walk through today. I mentioned we have quite a bit of detail to go into. I did not want this to be simply informational about what closed loop analytics is or even what it could do for your business. That's certainly important for us to talk through. But if you're here learning about it, chances are you probably already know at least a little bit what it is and especially why you might need it. We're going to show you how to actually do it with some free tools, the bulk of which you probably already have in your business or on your website right now. We're going to walk you through specifically some of the code and some of the setup to make all of this happen, and then how to take the information you're going to get out of it and start doing more with it to measure how your marketing is really impacting your sales, how it's turning prospects into actual customers, and how to see where you can go to get more of those from your marketing and from your ad spend in particular. So really quick, just a little bit about us. I mentioned I'm Brian. I work at Statwax. We are a full service digital ad agency headquartered in the beautiful Midwest. And we focus our core activities on the SaaS and the B2B vertical. We do have some higher ed clients as well. And what we are really about is managing marketing that gets you actual customers, not just leads, not just prospects. And that's a very key distinguishing factor. A lot of folks can take a marketing concept and go out and bring leads in the door and hand them off to sales. What Statwax really wants to do is take our core competencies, work them all together, and then implement the systems and the tracking and the data that let you see what actual revenue are you getting out of all of this? How can your sales folks get better quality prospects to talk to? How can your marketing channels deliver folks who are going to convert to longer term paying customers at a more efficient rate? And that is what Statwax tries to do for our clients. And thus we have a lot of experience in this space of analytics integration, that key central pillar that you see under what we do there. Yes, we run campaigns on paid search, paid social, etc. We expand into new markets. We test out new strategies. But what really ties it all together is that analytics piece, that business intelligence. And we can't make good decisions for our clients, and you can't make good decisions for your business without better understanding what channels are driving actual customers and revenue beyond that first touch point or beyond that form fill out or that content download. And that is what closed loop analytics will do for you. So if you haven't heard the concept before, closed loop analytics is basically a full gapless picture of your customer's journey from person who has not interacted with your business before all the way to a closed customer who is paying you for your product or your service. All those marketing touch points, as well as those post-lead milestones. Marketing, the misnomers often that it ends once a lead goes through your system and is handed off to a sales team. And closed loop analytics really turns that on its head and solves that issue of saying marketing lives on one plane of existence and sales on another. We're going to close the loop on those, tie it all together, and show how they push and pull and what channels on the marketing side are driving better success on the sales side. And by closing those gaps, if you could imagine the blue box at the bottom as a circle, that's your closed loop basically. Your measurable digital marketing channels, your website activities, your post-lead CRM information as folks move from prospect to demo to contact to customer, et cetera, and then your business intelligence. Which customers are more valuable? What did they do once they became a customer? Where did they first come from? All of that is tied together in this clean, closed loop of information flowing both ways between the systems. This is a little bit of a simplistic view of what I was talking about, how the marketing and the sales side works. And nothing in this is ever linear. This is a simple way to look at that lead to customer cycle. Obviously, someone can fall off at any point and be looped back in. There could be mixing and matching of post-lead milestones. But if you think about it, really the whole thing without closed loop analytics is this sort of invisible spaghetti bowl of marketing and sales. What digital touch points drove someone to first become a lead with your company? What happened to them afterwards? Did something on the first side affect something on the second side? How can they play better together? With closed loop analytics, you suddenly get insight and visibility into that spaghetti bowl where all of the strands are connected. You can look at a customer, say they're very valuable to me. How did I get them in the first place, and trace it all the way back to those first marketing touch points and see if maybe you should be investing more in that to get more of the right type of customer. So when you close this loop, when you fill in the gaps in the data flow and in the tracking and the attribution, you start getting all of these answers about your business. Namely, what is the true value of each of your marketing touch points? What is eventually creating a customer? We know that there's probably going to be multiple touch points, especially if you're running a large ad campaign digitally. There's going to be multiple touch points to get someone to your website and get them to convert, and especially get them to become a customer. You're very lucky, and it does sometimes happen that someone searches one term, clicks your ad, and boom, they're a customer. That's great. But more often than not, something happened early on to build awareness, then nurture them. They encounter some email newsletters, some white paper downloads, some social media posts, search ads, all of this together. You don't want to give full credit to just one. You want to divide that credit up and understand what had value along the way. And that's what closed loop analytics can start to do. And then which tactics best drive which lead types. A form fill out for a demo is not the same type of lead as a download of a white paper, which is not the same as someone attending your webinar. If you have all of these different ways of getting a prospect in the door, you want to understand which lead types are converting to better downstream milestones and customers, and which tactics marketing wise are generating which of those lead types, so you can better understand the ideal customer journey. If you do that, you're going to start to understand which touch points are getting you the highest quality leads, the ones who turn into actual customers the quickest, the best, and at the lowest marketing cost for you. And then all of that together gives you this roadmap for gaining efficiencies in the customer journey, for eliminating irrelevant spend on wasteful marketing channels, for putting more of your eggs in the right baskets to produce those customers. There are 5 key things we're going to touch on today to show you how to build, at least to start, a closed loop analytics system. A couple of them you almost certainly already have. Digital channels. This doesn't necessarily have to be paid marketing. We are a digital advertising agency. I often speak in terms of things like paid social ads, paid search ads, display ads. It can be a newsletter, email newsletter. It can be Twitter, Facebook marketing that you just put out, organic content, blogging. If it's digital and driving to your website, you can still use what we'll outline today to better track and build attribution for these things. So don't be turned off if I speak mostly in terms of ads. It is a habit more than anything. This really applies to digital as a whole. Then, of course, your website itself, where the lead capture is happening. We could do many follow-up webinars on how to do these things with offline activities, such as you meet someone at a trade show and enter their information into your database. That's a bit down the line. For the purposes of today, we want to help you build something that takes what's happening on your website, what's coming into your CRM from your lead capture. We want to build that first. So your CRM system is definitely going to come into play as well. I'll show you later why it really doesn't matter which one you have. This should be pretty universal. And then Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager. Google is the elephant in the room when it comes to website analysis and tracking, etc. You might use Adobe or some other free variations, but at the end of the day, Google Analytics is driving most of the largest websites. It's free. Yes, they have a paid component, Analytics 360. You really don't need that unless you're a massive corporation doing some serious data analysis. And in that case, you probably have a lot of this in place already. And then Google Tag Manager, also free, helps you accomplish a lot of the coding that we're going to be doing today without the need of a web developer in place on your team, which is great for efficiency and workflows. So the first step to all this is the CRM system. This is where your lead information and eventually your customer information lives. Now, the biggest cliche behind CRM systems, I guess you could call it, is garbage in, garbage out. This is very true. If you have the best Salesforce product on the planet, but no one at your company uses it and nothing's in there, everything we talk about today is not going to work the way you want it. You need to have clean, actionable information in your CRM. It needs to be capturing leads who come in, and your sales team or your biz dev team needs to be updating them through the milestones that are happening. If every lead you then try and push to sign up for a demo, you need to be marking which of those records signs up for a demo and when. These are the things that are going to help drive all of the tracking that we're going to do and telling the story of what's truly working for your business, which is why the first thing we want to do is prepare the CRM system to do this. I mentioned that it does not matter which one you use. So far in our experience, we have not found a case where that's not true. Right now, any of the major and even minor CRM systems that are out there and popular, including homegrown ones that we've encountered built in-house, still allow the capabilities that we're going to use today because it's very basic CRM capabilities. If you're on HubSpot, Salesforce, Zoho, and the like, you're already a leg up because those were built with this type of stuff in mind. But even on very simple one-off systems, you should be able to accomplish what we're going to walk through. Essentially, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take your digital channels and we're going to put customized information that eventually tells your CRM this person in the system came from this channel or this ad or this piece of content. In a nutshell, that's what we're trying to do with this first part. We want to eventually determine which records in your CRM system came from which marketing aspects, because then you can look 6 months down the road and say, these SQLs or these customers came from this ad, this channel, this post, etc. So that's the first thing we want to do. We do that with tracking attributes or parameters on the URL. If you've ever seen UTM parameters, you're familiar with the concept already. Same thing, except the beauty of this is it doesn't stop at UTM parameters. If you've done any marketing with UTMs, you know that there are 5 of them: source, medium, campaign, term, and content. And that's it. We need more than that to get really granular at where people are coming from, what they're doing, etc. With closed loop analytics and how we're building it out here, you can create whatever parameters or attributes you want. It just has to be on the URL when you send someone to your page. You can distinguish between paid or organic traffic, the source or the channel they came from, which ad variation they clicked, what keyword they interacted with on paid search, what post version, what image they clicked, which newsletter. Doesn't matter. Let your imagination run wild. If you can define it and put it in a URL that will be clicked, you can track it. So first, you're going to want to determine what to track. This is a very big step. At Statwax, when we sit down with a client during the data setup and the auditing and building out of this tracking system, the first thing we do with the client is we map out what aspects should be tracked. If they're using UTM parameters already, great. We'll start with those 5 UTM parameters and keep it simple. but you can go, as I just explained, through any of it. So you really need to figure out from the get-go, what do you want to see? Is it important to you on paid search to see whether they came from mobile or desktop devices? Is it important for you to know which referring URL they came from or where they're located geographically? It could be yes to all of those. There could just be a couple that you really need based on how you want to evaluate things. You can always add more later, but it's important to start with some sort of roadmap in mind. Because the parameters that you want to track, here's where the CRM setup comes into play. You need to have those fields in your CRM. So your records that are going to be created in your system, they're going to have these fields as part of it because that's where the information to track is going to live. So the first thing you need to do is map out what you want to track and then get those fields created as just standard text string fields, nothing fancy, no drop downs or dependencies or anything here, just standard text string fields in your CRM. The big ones like Salesforce typically have the UTM ones already installed because they're so ubiquitous, but check your CRM, check with your CRM admin, see what's in there already, and whichever ones are not, go ahead and create them. Here's a great example: inbound, source, medium, and campaign. These are not UTM, these are customized. We created these in HubSpot. Once you create the fields, you still will have to capture the information, which means you need those fields on your lead capture form on your website. Put them there as hidden. You don't want the customer or the website visitor to see these and think they have to fill them out somehow. You want it to occur behind the scenes, unbeknownst or uncaring to anybody. So put these new fields, all of them you want to track, as hidden fields on your form, and then publish those forms again. Make sure to push them live. That's a mistake we've seen happen plenty. Don't just create it in the CRM and leave it in draft or anything. Push that update to your live website so that those fields start showing up. They're not going to do anything until we set up the rest of stuff, but you at least have them there and can be done with that big step. If you hard code your forms, it is very easy to add hidden fields. You'll need web dev knowledge here. As you can tell, this is some raw HTML, but if you've built out your forms manually with HTML, you or whomever did so should know pretty well how to add some additional hidden inputs that will be named those parameters. It's very important that the field name matches the parameter name that you're going to have in the URL. We'll talk about that more a bit later.